Very nice. Okay, in your notes, week 3 classwork, okay, in computer concepts. So I know this class can take quite a bit getting used to. This is why this morning, at least in the online section, or in the face-to-face section, we went over some of the detail to help hopefully acclimate you to this class. And the idea, again, is immersion, right? I want you to spend as much time, short chunks of time getting things done. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over some class stuff that's coming at you, and then I'm going to give you a watch assignment. And the watch assignment is basically I want you to go watch this and take notes, okay? So in your notes, put class topics. The first class topic I want to tell you, and that's very nice. Very nice, okay? So the first thing is I've actually made a decision, and this really benefits you all and anybody else that needs it. On my Tuesday, Thursday office hour, which, by the way, anybody remember how you'd find my office hours? Syllabus, very nice. Let me just go ahead and do that because I want to have you know this. And syllabus can be found in the course under syllabus. You can click on Rio's calendar. Click here for my calendar. It will take you here. And so from now on, Tuesday and Thursday, these are my office hours, right? You can see on Monday, right? So it's 1:50. On Tuesday, it's 1:50. I'm sorry, on Monday, Wednesday, it's the same. But Tuesday, Thursday, after your class, okay? So right here, after 2:20, I'm going to hold an office hour, and I'm going to hold it in this room. So in your notes, the Tuesday, Thursday office hour will now be held in a lab so that if you just need more time, you can come in and get time in the lab. And take it back here for a second. Now, online students, you can come in as well. Anyone can come into this lab and work, okay? So the idea is if you just need computer time or if you feel like you need some extra help, that's where you would come and get that. Okay? Make sense? I hope I see students taking advantage of it. I am going to also offer it to an advanced class that we're teaching later. So hopefully we'll have people coming in and out. Oh, sorry, I meant to do that. Oh, sorry. The other text didn't show up on that. So the open lab, which is in here in this room, which you all know, but the online student, which is BE, which, by the way, what does BE stand for? Business education. It's so funny how many students come by and ask me where to get their parking pass. I'm like, that's business administration, that's not business education. Okay, so my IT lab is coming at you. And by the way, when? Yeah, so the 25th, which is, I know we're working ahead, right? So we're always, in this class, we're always lecturing in the week coming at you. But your first assignment is due on the 25th, okay? So what I want to go over today is really some best practices. And as I was reading some of your feedback about the most challenging thing you may face, some of the students I could tell had taken this class because they're like, I got to make sure I do the My IT lab correctly, okay? So I'm like, okay, some of you have taken this. So here's my first thing. Remember, and this may not be what you want to hear. Good, yeah, go back there. Actually, you could show me on the screen on these couple, right? Is that remember, My IT lab is your support. When you buy this product, you're buying their support, and we have reps that come around here, so make sure you're taking advantage of that. So I'm going to show you in this link, myitlab.com, okay? And then under myitlab.com, right, you go in and create your account, but there's this thing called support. And under support, there's some wonderful stuff here. You'll set up your computer, which most of that, I've actually done a little test over the last couple of years where I just go ahead and start working, and I haven't done the setup, and the only thing I seem to run into is the pop-up blocker, okay? You might know what I mean by pop-up blocker. Yeah, so blocks your, I know, right? It's like use the words in the sentence, right? So in this case, when you click on something, if you're supposed to see the pop-ups in My IT lab, so that's the training and assessments, and if you don't, then you probably just haven't set the pop-up blocker. But there are some other things in here, okay? And I want you to know, who's your first line of support for My IT lab? Okay. I just said it, but let me try it again. Who's your first line of support for issues of My IT lab? My IT lab. Now, my second note here is probably what you were talking about. You can also ask your fellow students, right? And then, by the way, another reason to be in class chat. As a matter of fact, last year in class chat, this was the most common question that would happen because your setup in your home or even in here may create issues that other students don't have. And one of the most common things I also see is students don't read the instruction. And they think they know it and they just try to do it. So I'm just telling you, another reason to be in class chat, and other students may or may not experience what you have as far as the My IT Lab stuff goes. Now, also remember that items that are due in My IT Lab are not shown due dates in My IT Lab. All the due dates are showing up in Canvas, okay? So know that all due dates are only listed in Canvas, even though you'll see some kind of calendar in My IT Lab. Always refer the default, or the standard is always My Canvas, okay? So I show a video on this, but just FYI, you're going to take a print screen once your score is done, and then just like on Classwork, you're going to submit that link into Canvas to show me the score that you got. Now, none of you would, but what would happen if you misreported a score? Like, let's say you got 70 and you told me you got 90. What would we consider that? Cheating. Yeah, so don't do it, right? I've only had a couple of students try to pull one over on me in these years, and I do go back and check your actual scores. So it is just your responsibility to show me those scores that are in there. Any questions about that? Okay, the other thing is, and I just talked about this a second ago, right? Make sure your pop-up blocker is allowed at the My IT Lab, right? And if you don't do this, then you'll click on something and nothing will show up and you'll think there's something wrong. And the only thing that's wrong is you just don't you have the pop-up blocker blocking it, basically. Work ahead. So here's probably one of my biggest pieces of advice with My IT Lab is work ahead of the due date so you can get help or you can find alternatives when you run into issues. And here's a very common practice for those of you in the face-to-face class that I saw last year, is students would do it at home, and the ones they would have trouble with, they'd come in here and do. Okay? So that is an opportunity, however you want to do it. Just I'm telling you, on this assignment, I would definitely work ahead of the due date. Which, by the way, I've already said this, but what's the benefit of working ahead of the due date besides what I just mentioned? Yeah, so when you come to class, you can get help here, and what else? Yeah, feedback from me. Now, in this case, you know, the feedback, you may not be getting what you want, but we'll at least know you're having challenges, and we can point you in the right direction. Okay? Okay. So the other thing is, Mac users, here's some additional, and just show the screen on this one. So for Mac users, here's what we found. When they want you to do like control tab, you just might need to put in a command control tab, right? Where it wants you to do function keys, so you just have some equivalents here, Mac users. Because what happens is they're going to be looking for native Windows commands, and when you're on the Mac side, you'll need to give it those equivalent commands. So here's some of the ones that I found, but just know that that may happen, okay? So, make sense so far? So this is just suggestions, best practices. But drum roll, this is my best advice. My best advice, yeah, drum roll, please. Thank you for playing along. That's awesome. My best advice for getting the most out of your My IT Lab work and doing well on the lab test. So really, the My IT Lab, when you look at the weekly assessments you have to do, are somewhat minor compared to the lab test. Uh-oh. What happened? Is it still showing up? Wow, okay, whatever. Something just cycled the powers. It did it again. Wow, are we okay? Wow, that's cool, I guess. All right, so here's my suggestion. And I've already said this in the training, so it's a repeat. Do the training, but I didn't say this, and I recommend it. Take notes when you do the training, okay? So that's one of the best. The number two really should be number one is, here's my thing, and I didn't say it last year, and I really recommend it this year, is you complete each step in the actual application. So when they teach you how to do something in Word, Excel, or Access, actually open up that application and do it. And I almost guarantee you, if you do this, while you're doing it, when you get to the lab test, it'll be easy breezy. But if you don't do this, it may be a little more challenging. So my suggestion is do the training, take notes, and then complete each step in the actual application. Which, by the way, do you get Microsoft Office for free? Yeah, it's in your campus email. And I will set you up with the other systems probably this week that you'll need to get access. But we have a couple weeks out for that, okay? Several weeks, actually. All right, so just so I can make sure you heard me, my 2 pieces of advice are what? Yeah, good, you got it. So, by the way, are trainings required? No, you get points on the exams, okay? They're not required. But, and let me just warn you, if you know Word and you're like, go straight to the exam, cool. If you can do it, cool. But just know that they are very specific. When they train you on a particular way to do something, they want you to do it their way. And this is what I want in your notes. It is very opinionated. So my IT lab is a simulation software that is very opinionated. And in this context, opinionated means they have a way they want you to do it. So even though you may know another way, be trained on the way they want you to do it, and now you know 2 ways to do the same feature if you already know how to do it. So what's the term I've introduced you to if you didn't already know it? Opinionated. That's what Google's for? You will in a little bit. That's okay. That's a good question. How do you spell opinion? By the way, do you guys know you can talk to Google now? Yeah. Right? Just ask it, right? How do you, and if you can say it, it'll most likely spell it for you, okay? Okay, so that's my best advice that's rolling at you in the coming week, when by the time the online students see this, they will have already passed it. And I will probably have to talk about my IT lab just because we run into some challenges. But in the most part, I believe it's going to work better this semester. Okay, so in your notes, week 3 hands-on. So in week 3 hands-on, and I've already posted some basic instruction. Let me just go in and find it for you right here on week 3 hands-on. We are going to start our adventure into Code Academy, okay? Anybody heard of Code Academy before this? Okay, so Code Academy is right here, okay? And it's a website where you learn to do a lot of different coding, but in this case, we're going to learn HTML and CSS, okay? So what you need to do, and I talk about this here, and this will be, by the way, I will link directly to this part of the discussion for anybody that wants to see it in the future, right? So step 1 on week 3 is you set up your account on Code Academy. Now, Code Academy gives you what's called, and this is, you see this, how many of you have seen this, where you can use another login as your account for that? Okay, anybody know what you call that? No, good. It's called a federated account. And what it is now, because almost a lot, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have either a Google Plus or Facebook, or if you're in coding, you'll see a GitHub account that you can use to log into this site. So I'm going to recommend you use your Google account, but if you want to set up or use Facebook or whatever, you can do that. So step 1, set up your account. And then also make sure your profile picture shows up in there, okay? So now, under Code Academy, I'm going to go ahead, because I use my Gmail account, okay, I'm going to go ahead and click log on. Now, what's cool about this, too, is that because I'm already logged on to Gmail, it's not going to ask me my password to Gmail. It's just going to look at my credentials and automatically log me on. Make sense? What's the term I called this? Federated. Make sure you put it in your notes. It's a federated account if you're using Gmail, Facebook, or something else, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and go down here, but I'll provide you all the links. What you're going to be doing is HTML and CSS. Now, the thing is, don't get too worried because we're going to do it unit by unit, right? So unit 1 is the basic HTML. So here's what it looks like. You come in here, right? It's going to give you some instruction. Why HTML? Why learn? Okay, so bring it back here. So here's what I want you to know. The reason I think learning HTML and CSS is so important is that The web is everywhere. The internet is affecting every bit of our lives. And 99% of what's on the web is generated by HTML and CSS. So having at least a fundamental knowledge, a basic knowledge of this stuff is helpful. And I would consider it part of your computer literacy requirements. By the way, I was watching Good Morning, one of the CBS this morning, and one of the big financial guys were on, and he was talking about how they're now going to do their own trainings. And they asked him, well, what are you going to train that the schools aren't? And he said coding. So coding is becoming a really important skill. Not that you're going to be a coder, but just having some basic knowledges of how to do coding. So there's two reasons I like you to learn this. One, why? I just said it. Somebody repeat it back to me. Why do I think learning HTML and CSS is important? It's everywhere. Number two, it helps you focus. Being able to code is really, the more you work on this skill, the better your focus will be, because it really makes you pay attention to detail. Okay? So here's what it looks like. So I'm on the screen, and by the way, I'm on number 1. What you can see is it goes all the way to 14, so you have 14 steps you have to do. Okay? I'm just going to go back here so you can see that. You look at the instruction, you do what it wants, you write the code, and then when you hit submit, it'll show up over here. So this will be the result, okay? So when you're done, what you will get is a badge. Matter of fact, I will show you in a minute my badges. So you'll complete how many steps here? 14. And then at the end of 14, you'll get a congratulations, and then you'll get some kind of thing showing you have a badge. So what I want you to do is once you complete it, matter of fact, let me just go to my, I think I have it right here. Is it profile or account? Right here it is, 32 badges. So when you get your first badge, you'll just take a print screen. Where would you put this print screen? Very nice. Shared with everyone, because hands-on is between who? You and everyone, right? So you'd take a print screen, you'd put it up on the shared with everyone, put a link, and then do a little writing about your experience. Okay? Now, if you're somebody that actually thinks this might be something you're going to do, I would actually tell you to pull up an editor and actually write this HTML code in its full form and not necessarily just in here. Kind of like my same suggestion about the whole My IT Lab thing, okay? But again, this is just a good introduction to that. Now, what we will do most likely is we will do, let me go back. We will do almost all of the HTML, CSS, and at least the first 5 under JavaScript, okay? Okay, questions about that? Make sense? So week 3 hands-on begins our adventure into what? Coding, okay? This coding, much easier, because it's really just this is what's called markup code, presentation code, and it prepares you to create a basic page that then you can apply JavaScript to, which is a full programming language, okay? Okay, cool. Late work in your notes. So I'm trying to be more clear about this, because last semester, even though I talked about it a couple times, students still seemed by the end to be confused, so I'm going to try to be more clear, right? Matter of fact, let me just pull up a doc real quick. So can you submit work late in this class? Yeah. And is there a penalty? Yes. Yeah, and what is that penalty? Somebody's like, it's points off, right? So normally 100%, right? In order to get that, you have to do all the work and you have to do it correct, right? Right? Make sense? Oh, I wanted to get bigger, right? So let's say you did something late. What percentage do I take off? So let's say in classwork, by the way, even though I extended it for whatever reason, you missed a classwork. If you submitted it late, which you can just submit the link in Canvas, assuming you get all the work done, what score do you get? 75%, right? And that applies to anything in this class. Okay? Everybody good? Now, the reason I do that is that I know a lot happens. And part of the reason I make sure you have at least a week or two ahead, which I just released part of week 3 today, is so that you have the ability to work ahead. But if something happens in your life, because I get it, this isn't all you do. This is one of many things that all of us do in our lives. If you miss something, just get it done, okay? Now, there is an opportunity to get this back. Would you like that opportunity? Yeah, so here's the deal. If you wanted that back, I'm going to give you through the semester various things to get that 25 points back. But you still have to complete the assignment, right? So in this scenario, you're getting the late points that I reduced. You're getting those points back if you do some of the things that I talk about. Are you with me? Right? I heard that. Yeah. Okay. It's okay. So in this case, what do you have to do? Well, your trainings for my IT lab, so put this in your notes. If you do the trainings for my IT lab, that will count for every training you do for one opportunity to get that back. So each week, when you have an exam, if you do the training, which I recommend, you're already going to earn these 25 points back. Now, how do you take advantage of it? It's going to look like this. You're going to have to create, in this case, by the way, anybody know what this is? It looks like Excel. It's a Google Docs, or what we call Google Sheets, okay? So in this case, and I recommend tracking this, that way it won't be in question. You're going to create a sheet, and this is the way I want it done. The item that you completed, that you get the points back, the proof, so give me a print screen to it, right? And by the way, again, this is between just you and me. So where would you put those print screens? What folder? Shared with me, right? If you put them in that folder, then I'll have access to, but I want you to give me the link. Now, item submitted late is that thing that you submitted late that you want the points back on. And then here is where I will make a comment, okay? Everybody good? So how does it work in my class? If you miss something, what do you do? If you miss something, what happens? Okay, so if you miss something, I didn't say this explicitly, but if you miss something, you just get 0, right? If you submit it late, you get what percentage off? Right? So if you submit it late, that's the score you're going to get. If you want the late points back, what do you do? Yeah, so you do trainings. And notice, too, and I'll expand this and do just the screen real quick. Notice, too, this, and by the way, this is actually a student's example from last semester. That's why I liked it. So I'm also going to offer some Code Academy stuff that is also going to account for this, or give you the ability to get it back. As a matter of fact, in the HTML, the first one, you're going to do the HTML basics. But if you wanted to do the build your own website, that would also count towards this. Clear? I will actually put that in the content. I don't have it in there right now, but I want to make sure that you all understand this. So here's where last semester some students thought this was true. They thought if they did this assignment, then it would replace the grade for that assignment. Is that true? No, you still have to do what? You still have to do the assignment. I'm just giving you the points back that you got removed because you did it late. Clear? Please put something in your notes about that so you understand it, right? So here is the format for that spreadsheet that I recommend you go ahead and create if you're doing trainings or other stuff. That way when it comes to you needing them, you'll be clear on how many you have. And basically and by the way, again, because you've already shared with me this directory, all you have to do is send me the link here. Okay? Okay. Boop, boop, there we go. Late work. Hopefully that's more clear than the last time I did it. Last thing is, as part of this classwork, okay, for week 3, I want you to watch 30 minutes of Humanity from Space. I'm going to give you the link in there in a minute. But be very clear, here's what I want you to start watching. I want you to start watching at the 1 minute 30 mark. Okay? Now, by the way, and how many of you know this? When you give somebody a link to a Google, by the way, you know Google is YouTube? How many of you know Google is YouTube? Yeah, Google and YouTube are one and the same. So when I say that, that's what I mean. But by the way, when I link it, you can actually do a start at. You can actually give the link that actually starts at that time stamp. And you'll see me do this a lot this semester. Like if you ever go back and look at the hands-on brief thing I talked about earlier, I'll give a link to where I started talking about that in the video. This is a cool feature, okay? So let's go back here. So at what point do you have to start watching this assignment? An hour 30. Hour 30? And by the way, if you're at all interested, I'd watch the whole thing because it's really awesome. It really is one of the best programs I've seen PBS produce lately, and it really does give a very visual for our world and how we've kind of got where we're at. It's just really awesome. I really enjoyed it, and it's a little depressing at times. I'm just going to warn you. Okay? So how much of this do you have to watch? 30 minutes. Right? So in your doc, in your Google Doc, after you've taken notes for this lecture, then you'll just have one called Humanity from Space, and then you'll take some notes in there on that. And again, all you need to watch is about 30 minutes. I think I put it where it starts talking about water. And then it starts talking about technology, and that's really the part that was most important in there. Okay. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Okay? All right, questions? No? All right, let's say goodbye to the online students. And then let's drop the recording. Drop the recording.